In the realm of infectious diseases, a pandemic is the worst-case scenario. When an epidemic spreads beyond a country's borders, that's when the disease officially becomes a pandemic. Even in this modern era, outbreaks are nearly constant, though not every outbreak reaches pandemic level as COVID-19 has. Here are some of the major pandemics that have occurred over time. The Great Plague of London. Deaths, 75,000 to 100,000. Source, rats and fleas. The Black Death's last major outbreak in Great Britain caused a mass exodus from London. The plague technically made its first appearance in pandemic levels in the 14th century, but it surfaced for a second time in London in 1665. Fleas from plague-infected rodents were one of the main causes of transmission. Symptoms of the bubonic plague in particular include a sudden onset fever, headache, chills, weakness, and one or more swollen, tender and painful lymph nodes. By the time the plague ended, about 100,000 people, including 15% of the population of London, had died. The Spanish flu. Deaths, 50 million. Cause, H1N1. The Spanish flu was an influenza pandemic that spread around the world between 1918 and 1919. 1/5 of those died, with some indigenous communities pushed to the brink of extinction. It was caused by an H1N1 virus, though it's unclear exactly where the virus originated. The flu's spread and lethality was enhanced by the cramped conditions of soldiers and poor wartime nutrition that many people were experiencing during World War I. Despite the name Spanish flu, the disease likely did not start in Spain. Spain was a neutral nation during the war and did not enforce strict censorship of its press, which could therefore freely publish early accounts of the illness. As a result, people falsely believed the illness was specific to Spain, and the name Spanish flu stuck. It ultimately caused at least 50 million deaths worldwide, with about 675,000 deaths happening in the US. Asian flu. Deaths, more than 1.2 million. Cause, influenza. The Asian flu pandemic was another global showing for influenza. With its roots in China, the disease claimed more than 1 million lives. The virus that caused the pandemic was a blend of avian flu viruses. The Centers for Disease Control and Prevention notes that the disease spread rapidly and was reported in Singapore in February 1957, and then in Hong Kong, and the coastal cities of the United States. The total death toll was more than 1.2 million worldwide, with 116,000 deaths occurring in the United States. Hong Kong flu. Deaths, 1 million. Cause, influenza. 1968 flu pandemic, also called Hong Kong flu pandemic of 1968, caused global outbreak of influenza that originated in China in July 1968 and lasted until 1969-70. The outbreak was the third influenza pandemic to occur in the 20th century. It followed the 1957 flu pandemic and the influenza pandemic of 1918-19. The 1968 flu pandemic resulted in an estimated 1 million deaths and about 34,000 people in the US alone. Swine flu. Deaths, 200,000. Cause, H1N1. The most recent flu pandemic in the US, initially known as swine flu, occurred in 2009 with a novel influenza virus, H1N1. The virus was actually first detected in the US, and spread quickly across the US and the world. In 1 year, the virus infected as many as 1.4 billion people across the globe. The flu pandemic primarily affected children and middle-aged adults, and 80% of the deaths were in younger people. The pandemic officially ended on August 2010. The virus continues to circulate as a seasonal flu virus, causing illness, hospitalization, and deaths worldwide every year. African Ebola. Deaths, 11,000. Cause, Ebola virus. Ebola ravaged West Africa between 2014 and 2016, with 28,600 reported cases and 11,325 deaths. The first case to be reported was in Guinea in December 2013, then the disease quickly spread to Liberia and Sierra Leone. The bulk of the cases and deaths occurred in those three countries. A smaller number of cases occurred in Senegal, Mali, Nigeria, the United States, and Europe. There is no cure for Ebola, although efforts at finding a vaccine are ongoing. The first known cases of Ebola occurred in Sudan and the Democratic Republic of Congo in 1976, and the virus may have originated in bats. HIV, AIDS. Deaths, 36 million. Cause, human immunodeficiency virus. HIV has claimed an estimated 35 million lives since it was first identified. HIV is the virus that causes AIDS, likely developed from a chimpanzee virus that transferred to humans in West Africa in 1920s. According to the most recent data, it's grown to pandemic proportions, with an estimated 65 million infections and 25 million deaths worldwide. For decades, the disease had no known cure, but medication developed in the 1990s now allows people with the disease to experience a normal lifespan with regular treatment. Even more encouraging, 2 people have been cured of HIV as of early 2020. These are some of the major pandemics the history has shown us. If you like our video, subscribe our channel and get notified on our latest videos.